My name is Evelyn Turner. For most of my life, I'd been labeled as the family's black sheep, misunderstood and unwelcome even among my own kin. I lived a life of quiet solitude. But everything shifted on the night of December 20, 2024. On the eve of my son's wedding, a secret kept for 25 years was unveiled by my future daughter-in-law, and suddenly, all those proud family members kneeled before me. That night altered the course of my life forever. My name is Evelyn Turner. I manage a modest floral shop tucked away in the suburbs of New York. Among the glamorous blooms that adorn my store, my own life has never been a picture of beauty. Even now, memories from that pivotal day invade my dreams. It was 1999, and I was 25. I was told there was a job opportunity in New York City that could change my life. With hope suffusing my heart, I boarded a night bus, and in an instant, my life turned into a nightmare. I was drawn into what one might call the underworld. Beneath the dazzling lights of the city, I was forced to sell laughter, stripped of my freedom and my name. Any attempt to escape was met with violence. My cries for help went unheard. So, to survive, I masked my torment with smiles. That existence stretched on for 2 interminable years. One day, by sheer chance, the police intervened, and finally, I was able to escape that world. However, what awaited me was a family that greeted me with cold disdain. "You disgrace us," they declared. "You're no daughter of ours." Though my name remained on the family record, my heart was expunged from theirs. At that time, I was carrying the flutter of new life within me. The sense of purpose that flickered to life was faint but palpable. The ensuing days were a fight for survival. By day, I toiled in a factory. By night, I juggled delivery jobs, and at dawn, I sold flowers outside the local train stations. Why flowers, you ask? In a life where I was constantly told I was tainted, flowers were the one thing I touched that remained beautiful. His name is Ryan. At his birth, I embarked on my journey as a mother. Regardless of my past, I vowed that I'd protect this child with everything I had. Reality was far from kind, though. The prying eyes of the neighborhood, the whispers and rumors, "Did you hear about her past? What can we expect from her son?" These comments pierced my back like daggers. Yet, I held my head high and moved forward. The day Ryan excitedly said, "Mom, the flowers are so pretty," I couldn't hold back my tears. Perhaps the day had come for me to be recognized. With that hope, I finally opened a small floral shop in the year 2020. Still, my family never came around. Not my brother, nor my sister, not a single niece or nephew. They all seemed to avoid my shop without a moment's thought. Despite this, I found my own form of contentment. Ryan graduated from college and built a career as a successful engineer. Witnessing his smiles reaffirmed my decision from that fateful day as the right one. Though the past remains etched into memory, the future is ours to mold. Clinging to this belief, I continued binding my bouquets. Yet this piece unraveled with a phone call during the winter of 2024. On the night of December 19, I closed up shop as usual. While swapping out the water for each flower, I whispered a quiet thank you to them. Inside my tiny floral shop, the gentle warmth of the heater mingled with the sweet fragrance of lilies, creating a serene atmosphere that enveloped me like a gentle embrace. At that moment, my smartphone started to vibrate on the little table in my cozy living room. Seeing the name displayed on the screen, I felt a slight tightening in my chest. It was a call from my younger sister. How many years had it been since we last spoke? The last time we met was when Ryan graduated from high school. "Hello?" I answered, with a sense of hesitation. "Evelyn, can you talk now?" Her voice sounded lower than usual, with a hint of a tremble that I could hardly miss. "Day after tomorrow will be Ryan's wedding, right?" "Evelyn, please don't come." "What?" I said, unsure if I had understood correctly. At a time when everyone should be bustling with excitement over wedding preparations, I couldn't have imagined hearing such words, a request that was so striking. "Someone in the family shared something about your past with the bride's family. We got a sudden call today. A mother like that, it wouldn't look right." Ryan is really upset, and he asked that you don't come. Ryan asked for that? I replied, almost instinctively. My son, my own child, asking me not to attend his special day? The child, who had been the center of my life and whom I had stood by through everything, now did not want me there? Please understand, Evelyn, if you come to the wedding, it will ruin it. That's what Ryan said. Please, for his sake, stay away this time. I've also told them to remove Mother's name from the invitation list. The words, Mother's name, struck deep, like a shard embedding itself in my heart. After ending the call, I was motionless for a while, staring at the beautifully designed wedding invitation placed on the small table. It was something Ryan himself had crafted. A white card adorned with delicate gold embossing but lacking one thing, the name Evelyn Turner. Parents of the groom not listed. Gazing at those words, I finally came to the realization. I had never truly been invited in the first place. I was an outsider in this family. In the best case, an absent presence was preferred, almost as if I didn't even exist. The actions I had taken, the nights I spent rushing Ryan to the doctor for fevers, secretly buying him new school supplies at the start of each school year, learned to make him lunch from scratch every single day because he disliked store-bought meals. Were all of those details now simply remnants of a past that today's him no longer needed? I glanced over at the calendar hanging on the wall, catching sight of December 20th circled in red. Final meeting. Written by Ryan's own hand, blurred through my tears. Slowly rising to my feet, I headed to the small room at the back of the flower shop. There, I kept things that I just couldn't bring myself to discard. Ryan's elementary school graduation certificate, report cards from his middle school days, and the first photograph the two of us had ever taken together. Holding one of those photos, I whispered to myself, I've really become unnecessary, haven't I? The night was peaceful, yet the silence felt heavy, as though shrouded in a painful solitude that enveloped me. To be rejected so heartlessly by one's own child is a pain I never could have imagined. Yet, I didn't shed tears. Those were exhausted 25 years ago. I made a simple resolve. This can't be the end. No matter what happens, Ryan must understand the truth. Why I lived alone, why I had to run from that place with my very life, and why I chose to raise him so lovingly, more than anyone else in the world. The reason must be conveyed explicitly, not to anyone else, but directly to Charles himself. That longing sparked within me what I call a final courage as Taylor's mother. It was December 20th at 9 p.m. Outside, the frigid night air crept in as the townsfolk ensconced themselves indoors. The streets, which had bustled with daytime activity, now lay silent, their energy dissipated like forgotten whispers. Spraying the flowers with a mist of water as I did every evening, the delicate chime above the entrance tinkled softly. The shop's bell announced a late visitor. At this hour? I thought, raising my eyes. Standing before me was her, Charles's fiancée, Natalie. Speech eluded me, shock pinning my voice down as I faced her. Yet, her determined gaze cut through the cold silence between us as she stepped forward, betraying only a flicker of hesitance before she spoke. "Forgive me for arriving unannounced," she began, voice tinged with urgency. "There's something I must know. Something only you can tell me." I rushed to make her comfortable, urging, "It must be bitter outside. Please come, sit, have some herbal tea to warm you." However, the steaming cup remained untouched. Her focus bore into me, straight and unyielding. "I'll be frank," she said. "Why do some still call you a fallen woman?" At her candid inquiry, memory nearly caused the cup in my hand to tip. Of course, the truth would reach her, I reflected bitterly. The family's guarded secrets had traveled swifter and further than I'd anticipated, piercing through the veneer of privacy I'd so desperately maintained. My gaze fell to the floor, weighed down by years of unspoken history. Where should I begin? How could I unravel 2 decades of veiled history so she could truly understand? The past I had locked away now loomed overwhelming over my present. "You're precious to Charles," I started softly. That's why I've kept quiet for so long. But perhaps the time for silence is over. Rising, I guided her into a back room. Hidden within a particular corner was an inconspicuous wooden box covered by a simple cloth, a vessel in which I buried remnants of a life I hoped to forget. Hands trembling, I unlatched what might as well be a Pandora's box. Inside lay the police report from when I was rescued, copies of newspaper articles from that era, DNA test results, a letter from my late mother, and a small USB drive. I placed these artifacts before Natalie, speaking softly. Please, take a look. This is the narrative of my life. Nodding patiently, she tucked the USB into her bag. I'll watch this tonight. But, first, I need to know one more thing. Her voice faltered slightly, reflecting the storm of emotion she must have been feeling. Charles's father? Is he truly? Without words, I handed her the DNA report. Upon opening, it confirmed. Charles's biological father had been a leader in the very network that once traded my freedom. Natalie was stock still, as if time had paused around us, watching her closely. I found myself questioning if I had just burdened her with my own decades of emotional freight. In that heavy silence, Natalie reached out and enveloped my hand in hers. A small but sincere smile spread across her face, her voice clear and gentle. Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you for sharing the truth. I don't see your past as shameful. Her words unwrapped the guilt cocooning my heart for more than 2 decades. Slowly, it began to dissolve. Thank you, truly. But let me be the one to tell Charles. For the first time, as I stood there enveloped in the quiet sorrow of the past, I glimpsed a hopeful tomorrow, supported by the shared understanding and unwavering compassion of the woman who would soon join our family. Evelyn gently nodded, adding as she prepared to leave, I'm grateful to know the truth. To me, you're the only one worthy of being Ryan's mother. Those words, spoken on a cold winter's night, carried a warmth unrivaled by anything else. That very night, Natalie went back home with a wooden box she had taken with her. From it, she quietly took out a USB and inserted it into her laptop. The room was dim, and the only light came from the screen, softly illuminating her face. The first video started rolling. It showed scenes from a late night in 2001, where the police raided a certain establishment, rescuing multiple women. Among them was me, a young woman of 27, clutching a blanket tightly, fear etched across her face. Later, Natalie told me how her hands had trembled and her breath caught in her chest, as if she too had momentarily forgotten how to breathe. Following that was a DNA analysis. The report named the biological father of Ryan, clearly marked as a man who had held a position of authority within that criminal world. It was when Ryan was in kindergarten that I discovered this truth. For days, I agonized over whether to confirm it with a test. Yet for Ryan's sake, I chose to document everything. For the day when this child must face the past, I reminded myself. Up next was the scanned copy of my mother's will. In it, the stark words lay bare. Evelyn was sold to that man to clear our family debt, not as a daughter but as property. After reading those lines, Natalie was left speechless, unable to move for what seemed to be an eternity, merely holding her hand to her mouth in shock. Undoubtedly, it was an unbelievable truth for anyone. However, that was my reality. For 25 years, I harbored a secret, a truth untold. The following morning, I opened my shop as usual. While swapping out the chilly water for fresh, warm water in the flower vases, gentle arms enveloped me from behind. I turned around to find Natalie standing there, tears shimmering in her eyes. I watched it all, she said softly. The videos, the documents, the will. Everything. Her voice shook as she continued. Honestly, it scared me to see how much people can hurt others. But more than that, I'm profoundly moved by how you survived through it all. I remained silent, only tightening my hold around her hand in gratitude. That hand, simultaneously cold and warm, introduced me to a feeling I had long since forgotten, the sensation of being acknowledged by someone. You don't have to stay silent about this anymore. Ryan and everyone else deserves to know the truth. You are not the shame. It's the family's attempt to bury the past that should be ashamed. Natalie's words washed over me, dissolving a part of my burdened heart. For so long, I had lived under the notion that I was a mark of shame to someone. I crafted smiles, endured quietly, but it seemed I could finally voice what I needed to say. Thank you for believing in my story and seeing me for who I am. Natalie wiped her tears, gripping my hands with both of hers firmly. Then, she smiled softly and said, I am honored to understand your life. For the first time in years, I felt a connection, a link between our souls. Shaped by these spoken truths, I knew that day marked the start of a new chapter, a shared story with Natalie. And Ryan, steeped in trust and, now more than ever, frankness and understanding. A new beginning illuminated by courage and transparency. I am about to fight. For your honor. And for Ryan's future as well. That night, for the first time in what seemed like forever, I slept soundly. It only took one night, just a single person who understood me, to lighten the burden in my heart in such an immense way, a feeling I had never known before. December 24 was the day of Ryan's grand moment, the day of his wedding. I woke up early in the morning and walked to a spot near the venue. Of course, I hadn't been invited, but I felt compelled, this undeniable urge, to witness that critical moment with my own eyes. Outside the venue's entrance, beautiful white flowers adorned the scene. The majority were varieties that I stock in my shop, oddly enough. Ironically, I could only gaze upon the space surrounded by flowers I had nurtured, from outside. As the ceremony began and the guests applauded, Ryan and Natalie walked in hand. At that very moment, unexpectedly, the lights in the venue dimmed, and a large screen flickered to life, projecting footage from a USB drive. What played first were scenes from 2001, a police rescue operation. Women fleeing in all directions, and among them, a young woman crouching down, myself. The guests erupted into whispers, and I overheard someone whispering, "Could it be?" Next appeared a DNA test report. Clear as day, it confirmed that Ryan's biological father was a leader within an organization that had once treated me as mere merchandise. Suddenly, the entire venue seemed frozen in shock. Ryan stood there, immobilized, staring at the screen, unable to move. The final image shared was the last testament of my mother. By selling Evelyn, our family was freed from debt. I intended to take this regret to my grave, but it must be told to someone. At those words, several relatives covered their faces, their shoulders trembling with grief. As the video concluded, Natalie stepped forward. Her voice was gentle yet firm. This is the truth of Evelyn Taylor. We judged her only by whispers and rumors. Now, I stand here to say with pride, she is more than worthily Ryan's mother. In profound silence, Ryan slowly crumbled to his knees. Mom, I'm sorry." His expression was vulnerable, filled with anguish, a sight I had never seen before. It was at that moment one of the venue's staff noticed me standing at the back and gave a small nod, encouraging me to proceed. Slowly and quietly, I began my walk down the aisle, stepping onto the stage. The entire room fell silent, eyes fixed on me. My footsteps softly echoing through the spacious hall. Standing at the microphone, I offered a slow bow. I apologize for the disturbance. I am Evelyn Taylor, Ryan's mother. An instant passed where nobody dared utter a word. I continued. I am ashamed of my past. Yet, facing that past and raising my son are my pride. Today, revealing everything to you all is because of Natalie's bravery and to show just how outstanding my son Ryan has become. Though my voice trembled, my heart felt surprisingly calm. As a mother, my sole wish is for you to be happy. I hope you savor your future unshackled from the past, alongside the one you hold dear. And finally, I added one last sentiment to the room, a wish of hope and an end to the chains of history that had bound us too tightly for far too long. To those who have shunned me, if you believe you've preserved yourself by casting away someone, the price might someday come back to you. As I stepped down from the stage, several relatives stood up and bowed deeply. "We're sincerely sorry." I said nothing in response to their apology, offering only a small smile. That day, for the first time, I truly felt like, I'm glad to be alive. In January 2025, I embarked on a new chapter of my life. There, on the second floor of a quaint office building in the suburbs outside New York City, lies the Women's Support Center I established. Its formal name is the Sunflower Support Room. Like a sunflower, it was named with the hope of facing forward and blooming. No matter how cloudy the past may have been, our aim is to assist women who, like I once did, carry unmentionable wounds and tremble in solitude. It's a place where those without sufficient government support can speak freely and hear the words, "You're not to blame." At first, I started the project alone. Then, Michael and Susan offered, "We want to help too." Michael took charge of setting up systems for accounting and the computers. Susan conducts workshops in embroidery and floral arrangements, providing skills to encourage independence. Now, the three of us spend our days working as a team, supporting someone's new beginning. It's curious, after fighting alone for 25 years, it's hard to believe I'm now side by side with loved ones, close to others' lives. One day, a young woman came to the center. She wouldn't meet my eyes and spoke in whispers, as if saying, "I shouldn't be here." I smiled and offered her tea gently, beginning the conversation softly. "This isn't a place to judge the past. It's about what lies ahead and how you want to live from now. That's far more important." Tears filled her eyes, and she whispered softly, "Thank you." That's what I've never heard from anyone before. In that moment, I realized, creating this place was truly worthwhile. Just by being understood, people can be saved in such profound ways. In the office of the center hangs a photo. It's the first family portrait, with me, Michael, and Susan, all smiling together. Each morning, I put my hands together before it, saying quietly in my heart, "Mom, I'm all right. I've finally learned to forgive myself." Even the mother who once sold me, I no longer hold resentment. Everyone can be swept away by the times and circumstances. But I've learned there's a way of life that transcends that, to save the next someone. Now, I no longer identify as a person with a shameful past. I live proudly as someone who overcame the past and can be a light for others. And how about you? Are you judging someone's past by mere gossip? Are you assuming someone's silence out of your own judgment? If you know of someone who can't raise their voice, perhaps sitting near you, please quietly extend your hand. And if you've been unable to speak out due to past scars, please share this. You are not alone. Truth can sometimes inflict pain, but shining a light on it can save someone's future. So, please, if someone you care deeply for is misunderstood and silently endures, what would you do for them? Your voice could be the catalyst for transforming someone's life. Courage isn't meant to harm others. It exists to protect. Imagine finding out a close friend has been wrongly accused of something terrible. They've been silently suffering, carrying this burden alone because they don't want to trouble anyone else. How would you stand by them? Would you muster the courage to speak up, even if it meant confronting uncomfortable truths or facing the judgment of others? In our society, using your voice for someone else can sometimes be daunting, especially if standing up for them means going against the opinions of others. However, it is in these moments that you can offer protection, not only to your friend, but also to yourself, by knowing you did the right thing. In America, we often value bravery in the form of assertiveness or fierceness, but sometimes, the most profound courage manifests in the quiet act of advocacy, of speaking up for those who cannot. Whether it's a family member, close friend, or even an acquaintance, our actions, or our inactions can have a far-reaching impact on their lives. Reflect on how you can be there for someone who may feel isolated or overwhelmed by circumstances. Remember, your encouragement, your willingness to sit with someone in their shadows and bring their struggles into the light, might just be the pivotal moment that alters the course of their story for the better. Embrace the opportunity to be the courage someone needs today, tomorrow, or in the future. Let your empathy guide you, because ultimately, courage cultivated from empathy is one of the most significant ways we can shield and cherish those we hold dear. Whether you realize it or not, your actions can weave the threads of courage into their tapestry of life, transforming silence into hope and fear into strength.